You're watching BCTV. We're all about Branford. You're watching BCTV, Branford Government Television, a service of Branford Community Television. This program is brought to you in part through the support of the town of Branford.
Exactly.
A couple of times I had tea and wine in my coffee cup.
Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Okay. The RTM will be convened on Wednesday, December 14th, 2022 at 8 p.m. at Fire Headquarters, 45 North Main Street, Main Street, to consider and act upon the following matters. Will everybody please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, item 1, roll call. Aye.
Okay, roll call. Representative Alphone.
Here.
Representative Amore.
Here.
Representative Anderson.
Here.
Representative Barron.
Here.
Representative Black.
Here.
Representative Bonenberger.
Here.
Representative Brooks.
Present.
Representative Conklin.
Here.
Representative Everson is absent. Representative Erlanger.
Here.
Representative Flanagan.
Here.
Is Representative Greenberg on?
Yes. Yes.
Virtual. Okay. Representative Healy.
Present.
Representative Henschel.
Here.
Representative Hines.
Here.
Representative Ingraham.
Here.
Representative Kelly. Absent. Representative Leach is here. Representative Maresca.
Here.
Representative Preet.
Here.
Representative Riccio.
Present.
Representative Shrestha.
Present.
Representative Sayers.
Present.
Representative Stepanik.
Here.
Representative Sullivan.
Here.
Representative Torelli. Absent. Representative Toohill.
Here.
Representative Verderam.
Here.
Representative Witkowski.
He's absent.
Absent. And Representative Wells.
Absent.
Absent? Okay.
You got Selectman Conesco.
And ex officios, we have Selectman Cosgrove, Selectman Higgins, and Town Clerk Arpin. Is that everyone? Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item 2, approval of the minutes of the October 12th meeting, 2022. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion to approve the minutes of the October 12th? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The minutes are approved without exception. Item 3, receptions of communications, reports of committees, and citizens' petitions. I have a couple here. I have a letter from Frank Carano, President of Branford Arts and Cultural Alliance. Dear Mr. Moderator, on behalf of the Branford Arts and Cultural Alliance, BACA, I want to express our appreciation for the vote of approving to our request for $70,000 appropriation for ARCA funds. The financial support will be an important factor in our ongoing efforts to develop and improve our enterprise on 10004 Main Street, and also continue to work collaboratively with our neighbors in Branford Center to develop it into a more dynamic and vibrant place. Once again, thank you. Not sure if I sent you that one.
Thank you.
I have a email here from Representative Greenberg. Dear Moderator Flanagan, I would like to have the following added to the RTM call. I have had reach out from constituents on noise issues emanating from commercial sanitation pickups to review and appropriately adjust the town of Branford's ordinance on noise and how it addresses commercial pickup of sanitation. I will send this to the Rules and Ordinance Committee.
Yes.
You do?
I'll take it.
Okay. I have another letter from Sandra Reiners. Dear Mr. Moderator, as a citizen of Branford, and recognize how all neighbors of our town are being impacted by the noise and air pollution emanating from the increased volume of flights at Tweed Airport, and also recognizing that a substantial expansion is being planned, which will further increase the burden at the Branford, as well as more intermediate neighborhoods surrounding the airport, will face. Respectfully request that the RTM of Branford endorse the attached nonpartisan resolution. The resolution is accompanied by a letter to the editor of the New Haven Register and the Sound. And the resolution so reads, be it resolved at the representative town meeting of Branford that 1, Branford wishes to register its disapproval of the increased volume of air traffic emerging from Tweed New Haven Airport because it has an outsized impact on our communities and its direct flight path, notably those of Short Beach, Double Beach, Branford Point, Linden, Pawson, Indian Neck, and many others. Item 2, the RTM strongly urges that the environmental impact study that measures real-time on-the-ground data collection rather than theoretically modeling of impact is essential before proceeding with any plans for airport expansion. Item 3, Branford shall participate in decisions that impact Branford. We seek a voice of the New Haven Tweed Airport Authority Board when decisions affecting flyover impact in our town are taken. I will add this to the call for January's meeting. I have nothing else. You have anything else?
I have nothing else.
Okay, moving on to item 4, to consider and if appropriate, review tree warden ordinance, Chapter 16, Article 11 of the Town Code. Representative Black.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Rules and ordinances met 3 times on this matter. We're progressing with some drafts that Representative Henschel has, but at this point have no firm recommendation to the body as a whole. So ask that it be re-referred, and I'll put that in the form of a motion.
Motion on the floor to review this, refer this item. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Item is re-referred. Item number 5, to consider a request from the town planner pursuant to a policy adopted by the Planning and Zoning that Branford opt out of universal as right accessory dwelling unit additions for property owners, and if appropriate, approve the following resolution. Resolve that having received notice at the Planning and Zoning Commission after duly warned public hearing per CGS Section 8-7D, the state has voted to opt out of the provisions of Section 6, subsection A to D of Public Act 21-29, the RTM, as a legislative body of the town of Branford, opts out of this Section 6, subsection A through D of Public Act 21-29, as provided by the Section 6, subsequent F of said Public Act. Representative Black.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Rules and ordinances met and heard this item on October 18th and unanimously voted its adoption by the full RTM. The one difference that you picked up from the published notice here is there's some extraneous language in this after the Section 8-7D. It says the town of Branford. That should be struck from what we're approving from the resolution. I don't know if that was a cut and paste error or what, but that should be struck. But it is as you read it, Mr. Moderator. And this needs to be adopted by a 2/3 vote of the RTM. So I'll ask for a roll call vote. But again, if there's any questions, the town planner is here, and we've all gotten the letter regarding this. This doesn't preclude ADUs anywhere. It just allows neighbors and public input in the planning and zoning to have input and review over accessory dwelling units. Thank you.
Okay, motion on the floor to approve this resolution. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Anybody from the public wishing to speak to this? Hearing none, this will be a roll call vote. A yes vote, you agree with the opt-out plan. A no vote, you are against.
Okay. Representative Alphone.
Yes.
Whoops. Sorry. Representative Amore.
Yes.
Representative Anderson.
Yes.
Representative Barron.
Yes.
Representative Black.
Yes.
Representative Bonenberger.
Yes.
Representative Brooks.
Yes.
Representative Conklin.
Yes.
Representative Erlanger.
Yes.
Representative Greenberg.
Yes.
Representative Healy.
Yes.
Representative Henschel.
Yes.
Representative Hines.
Yes.
Representative Ingraham.
Yes.
Representative Leach is yes. Representative Maresca.
Yes.
Representative Preet.
Yes.
Representative Ricchio.
Yes.
Representative Shrestha.
Yes.
Representative Sires.
Yes.
Representative Stepanik.
Yes.
Representative Sullivan.
Yes.
Representative Toohill.
Yes.
Representative Verderam.
Yes.
And that's it, unanimous.
Resolution passes. Okay. Moving on to item 6, to consider and if appropriate, adopt a policy for virtual meetings into our town meeting rules. Representative Black.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. We met on this on the 21st, and prior to that, Representative Sullivan, this was his suggestion, and he's promised to have some specific language for us by January. We did not hear it at the last meeting because he said that was too early, so.
Did he say which January?
No.
No.
Anyway, so I'll ask that it be re-referred, and I put that in the form of a motion.
Motion on the floor to have this item re-referred. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The item is re-referred. Item 7. To consider and if appropriate, approve the Board of Finance recommended capital funds 700, 720, and 730 reports pursuant to the Capital Projects Ordinance, Section 47-4, expiration of funds, detailed list attached. Representative Black.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. At this point, I'm going to move that we waive Rule 4.41 to be able to act on this item tonight. Most of these transfers, if not all of them, are no-brainers here, and we'd like to move this forward. As you know, we passed this capital funds ordinances last year. This is the first year it's been enacted. What we're doing here is sweeping old funds from expiring funds or from projects that are completed and putting them into new projects. All of this lessens the tax burden. It's really just good money management. We've all had the list of the transfers that are proposed. So I'll ask for a second to my motion to waive Rule 441.
I'll second the motion.
Motion on the floor to waive Rule 441. It's been seconded. Any discussion? Representative Brooks.
Sorry. For the most part, I'm always a big proponent of 441.
Yeah, Josh.
But in this case, I'm going to vote against it. This is not a small amount of money. By my calculations, it's $2.6 million that is not being spent and sitting in these various funds, and it makes a lot of sense to transfer them, and I will 100% agree with the idea, and we need to transfer them, but I would love it if there's a discussion, and I don't think anybody here wants it to be tonight, but perhaps, we can look into where we are with some of this $2.6 million, because if we're not going to spend it in the next however long, transferring it back into the general fund where it can, I mean, I'm not a mathematician nor an economics person, but, you know, if we transfer it back in the general fund, I mean, it's a lot of money that if we're not going to use it, let's put it back. And I'm not saying that we're not going to use it. I don't know that we're not going to use it. But some of this money has been there since 2012. So I think because it is such a large amount, we should send these to committee just to have a discussion instead of having it here tonight.
Representative Black?
Through you, Mr. Moderator, I know at least one of these projects, the GGB director is waiting for this transfer to go through. Finances said, you know, wait till tonight's over. For those things, for the Rules and Ordinances Committee, I was thinking of you. I was channeling your spirit, Representative Brooks, as I looked at them. And there's WPCA transfers that are all into sewer relining and into generator repair that are being swept up. We know those are ongoing projects. And the other, we had a big discussion in Ways and Means about, which is a natural resources inventory, which has to get done. And we increased that amount already, so I didn't see a reason to do that as well as most of these are really the same. They're just moving these items forward. So I'd urge that we move it tonight so that our town department heads can go forward. If you have any specific questions, you know, they can be addressed tonight, I think. Thank you.
Anybody else for discussion on waiving Rule 441?
Mr. Moderator?
Representative Sullivan?
I'd like to stand, but I don't know what to do with this. So I guess I'll sit for now, but figure it out later. I am in support of Representative Brooks' commentary. Oh, yes, thank you. This is better. Commentary for these items. I agree, we're moving these funds mostly to new things, but I would like to know why some of these things have been delayed for so long, why the projects haven't moved forward. I don't see any sort of time sensitivity in the memo from Mr. Finch on doing these transfers immediately tonight. As far as I know, it's a fiscal year item. The fiscal year is not ending this month. And there's just a lot of different lines here. I kind of wish that it wasn't all dumped to us as the RTM in one document with all these different transfers. And I do think that we should have explanations as to why some of these funds haven't been spent when they were allocated several years ago. So I'm in favor of voting against waiving Rule 441. Thank you.
Any other discussion on this item? Representative Omori?
Thank you. As I recall, the spirit of the ordinance that created this limitation and moving things out was to really discover why things hadn't been spent, if the money wasn't needed any longer, if other things were intervening. And so I think we should honor the spirit of that ordinance, which said we need to talk about why the money has been unspent for such a long time. And somebody did the calculations tonight that if this amount of money, or even a portion of it, had gone back into the general fund and was there to be represented and re-requested, it would be earning interest that it is not, let's say it again. $73,000 is the money that is what could be earned on this money that has been sitting there. I'm looking at things sitting from 19, from 05, from 2010. There are a lot of them here. And it seems like an awful, an examination on some of these should be made before we just blanket approve to turn them over.
Mr. Moderator?
Representative Ingraham?
Mr. Moderator, I'm in favor of doing this tonight. One of the major reasons is that, for one, Representative Conklin had a meeting in November to discuss this, did not have a quorum, and no other members in the audience to ask questions. Two, through you, Mr. Moderator, Representative Healy, how many people other than your committee were in your meeting?
Four.
Four.
Yeah, we had three that evening.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on waiving Rule 441? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
The ayes have it. Representative Black, continue.
Okay, that, having passed, I'll make a motion to approve these and look for a second.
Second.
Motion on the floor to approve the capital fund projects has been seconded. Any discussion?
Mr. Moderator?
Representative Healy?
Just to put forth that Ways and Means did hear our component, and it did pass through committee 5-0 on the passage of the $250.05. We got that through. Well, thank you.
Any further discussion on Representative Black's,
73,000.
Representative Brooks?
This is one crowd.
I'm confused. So at the Ways and Means where only 4 people showed up, the only thing was discussed was $250. Am I wrong? Because that's the only thing it sounds like that was voted on was $250. What am I missing?
$250 is rules and ordinances.
No, it's Ways and
Ways and Means, rules and
Through you,
ordinances.
Mr.
in here ain't
Moderator.
gonna-
Representative Healy?
Through you, Mr. Moderator. And no, I had a full agenda that night. That was just this one of the 700 account. That was the only one that fell under the Ways and Means Committee. So that one we were able to address, whereas the other committees, unfortunately, didn't have everybody to go through theirs.
Any further discussion on this? Representative Brooks?
Again, so, just so I just want to, I've been to 3 R&O meetings in the past however long. And there's $252,000, $125.77 that comes under rules and ordinances. Administrative services is $22,693.25. Public services, which I think that's the meeting that didn't have a quorum, is $1,698,413.13. So while yes, a lot of this does fall under that meeting that nobody came to, but there are other, rules and ordinance have met. It wasn't brought there. Administrative services, it wasn't brought there. So I'm not opposed to what's happening here. I'm not, but we are, our number one job here is to be stewards of the money. And I just think, I'm going to vote for it, obviously. I have to vote for it. And I don't want to waste everybody's time to go through everything in R&O I don't want to do that. I agree. This isn't the place to do that. But you can see where, I just want the people to understand that's what we're doing here. And isn't our job to be stewards of that? Go ahead. Come on.
Any further discussion? Hearing none?
Cosgrove.
Selectman Cosgrove? Okay.
Because a lot of numbers are being thrown for the benefit of the public and others, in terms of the magnitude of these dollars, and I think they can pick it up on this. Thank you. When you think somebody referenced it's over $2 million or 2.6. $1.1 million that is a sewer project. That was a project that didn't, the town allocated, there was a development that was going to occur, then it ended up not happening. However, as stated at the Board of Finance, and I'll state this, there's renewed interest in that project advancing. So that 1.1 million out of this too is moving forward, potentially move forward. I think it's also important that a lot of these are, again, we won't go through line. A lot of them are over time, the town hall, the vault. Those were things that this body approved annually, every year. 15,000, for, probably over a decade. All right? And it's saying, well, why hasn't that advanced? And that's what we had those questions. It was a placeholder to show that the town was was going to address these at some point. We then made which was then stated at the Board of Finance, we had met, we said, let's just prioritize a few things that need to be done. And but none of these dollars, they're not being repurposed. The majority of them are being just added a new year. So the same process they went through in terms of, justifying and getting the approval of why those dollars were needed, they're still being for that same purpose. The inventory, the natural inventory, this body just approved to increase the amount that commission has available to perform that inventory. This is taking an old year because they were going to utilize that old year. If you don't approve it, that gets swept. Now you're back to cutting them back in half of what they had. So some of this was always, is intended and is in the process of being utilized. So I just think you should keep that in mind before I hear what you're saying. You have questions why, but your ordinance is also, if you don't act on it, it gets swept. But keep in mind, these are given new year numbers, and then we did sweep some when we went through and met with, when I say we, the administration, myself, and finance, talking to department heads, what is happening is, what is the balance in here? That project is essentially closed out, or there's no more activity. Sweep those. The last meeting, you did sweep some. These are projects that we identified that still are needed to be done or are advancing, and that's why we're giving them new project numbers. Just wanted to be clear on that. And I hear you.
Any other discussion on this? Hearing none? Representative Sullivan?
So I appreciate all the conversation and
You can use that mic there, the one right in front of your...
I like to stand up, Mr.
It
Moderator.
picks you up if you stand up.
We know who you are.
Henry told me it doesn't when he came over here this afternoon. So thank you, Selectman Cosgrove, for that explanation on the vault upgrades. And I understand that it's going to most of these same projects and extending them. My question would be, so we're making new line items for these for 2022. Are these all going to then be finished in time where we won't have to do this again in 2 years per the ordinance? So, there's just a lot of projects that seem to have not moved forward, and are we expecting all of this work to get done in the next 2 years is kind of a question to have for all these different projects which are on our list right now.
Representative Black?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Frankly, two of the people that at our last R&O meeting were saying we shouldn't have so many meetings was Representative Brooks and Representative Sullivan. And so, to me, this really got passed by the Board of Finance before the agendas, or after the agendas were set, really, at least as far as R&O is concerned. The one item that is completed essentially is Harbor Street. There was a lot of problems with the Harbor Street. I talked to Catherine LaBanca. She was saying, the RTM approved that for Harbor Street. You can't use it somewhere else. The sewers, they're about as old as I am, and like me, their joints are getting a little rough, and some replacements are needed. And the generators, the same thing. That's ongoing maintenance. Harbor Street is pretty much done now, so there's leftover funds. This is really ongoing maintenance for that, and the natural resources inventory is required to be done every 5 years. We had a lengthy discussion in Ways and Means, and maybe a little on the floor as to how much to appropriate for that natural resources inventory. We took into account the 10,000, so that's where we are on those items for our rules and ordinances. Thank you.
Any further discussion on this item? Hearing none? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
One no vote. Abstentions?
Abstain.
Okay, Representative Moraes' abstention.
Two abstentions.
Yeah. The item passes. Moving on to item 8. To consider and if appropriate approve a transfer request from the undesignated fund balance for the town green improvements, and the resolution as follows. General fund, increase fund balance to $200,000. And also increase operating transfer out Fund 203, 200,000. Fund 203, increase transfer in 200,000. And also state grants 500,000 for a total of 700,000. And increase town green improvements by 700,000. Resolved that the RTM approves an increase in the appropriation for fiscal year 2023 general fund budget from $124,524,065 to $124,724,065. This increase will be funded through an appropriation from balance as step grants and will use to fund improvements on the town green. Representative Healy?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Moderator. Yes, the Ways and Means met on the 7th of December to hear this, and it's pretty self-explanatory. This is right for our green improvement, the town green, including parking, the curbs, walkway, full irrigation. Again, we've gotten a $500,000 grant from the state. Our share to kick in is $200,000. It passed through our committee 5-0, and I look for a favorable passage here, and I put its passage in the form of a motion. Thank you.
Motion on the floor for this approval. Any discussion? Representative Toohill?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. It's great the town of Branford received this grant from the state for $500,000. The green in Branford is used more and more every year by the people. It's great to see. I'd like to thank the Recreation Department for doing such a great job, keeping the green up to speed to get this grant. I mean, it's going to be great to improve parking, curbing, and at this time, I'd like to urge all RTMs to vote for it. Thank you.
Any further discussion on this item? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? The item carries. Moving on to item 9, to consider and approve a transfer request from the Finance Director regarding the Harbor Street Culvert Project, and the resolution as follows. General fund increase, fund balance $97,000. Increase operating transfer out fund 730, $97,000. Fund 730, increase transfer in $97,000, and decrease bond proceeds $97,000. Resolved that the RTM approves an increase in appropriation for fiscal year 2023 general fund budget from $124,724,065 to $124,821,065. This increase will be funded through a appropriation from the undesignated general fund balance. Representative Healy?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Moderator. Again, we met on the 7th of December to hear this part. And again, in trying to finish up the Harbor Street, rather than bond or borrow any of the money, there's $97,000 with today's interest rates. We're just looking to pay off this balance through our undesignated fund. It did pass committee 5-0, and I'd like to see it passed here, and I put it in the form of a motion. Thank you.
Motion on the floor to approve this resolution. Is there any discussion on the resolution? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? The item passes. Moving on to item 10, to consider and appropriate, hear a request from the Board of Education for the following redesignation request. From Branford High School entrance security upgrade, extend $30,498. INS extend $101,185. From INS asbestos abatement flooring, redesignated combined, $26,075. From Branford High School Architectural Study Sports Complex, redesignated combined, $15,000. From system-wide door replacement transfer combined, $28,584. From code appliance transfer combined, $1,851, for a total of $203,192. To Branford High School entry security upgrade, new project, $30,498. From INS, new project, $101,185. To system-wide door replacement increase, fiscal '22 project, $69,659. And 2, code compliance building and fire codes, increase fiscal '22 project $1,851 for a total of $203,192. Representative Preet.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I apologize to Representative Brooks, but the Education Subcommittee did not meet this month, so I make a motion that we waive Rule 441.
Motion on the floor to Rule 441. Is there a second?
Second.
Second?
Who seconded that? Hires?
No.
Oh.
Sure. Any discussion on waiving Rule 441? Hearing none? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Rule has been waived. Representative Preet, go right ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. These transfers are also to comply with the ordinance that was passed on the redesignation of unused capital funds. Basically, the short version is the high school security entrance where they want to extend. That project is almost completed. They need a little more time. The Indian Neck School entrance was halted due to COVID, so they want to start that project up again. The Indian Neck School asbestos is complete, so they're redesignating that plus the architectural study and the system-wide door replacement into a new project of system-wide door replacement, and just a transfer of the code compliance to a new project, code compliance in building and fire codes.
So you're putting a motion to approve?
To approve, yes.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Representative Ingraham. Any discussion? Representative Brooks.
Had I heard this in committee, I would have voted for it 100%. So I'll do that here now.
Any further discussion on this item?
Mr. Moderator?
Representative Sullivan.
I don't need the phone.
You're getting it.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. So I'm looking at the memo that came over from Superintendent Hernandez, and it does mention that there are a couple projects with balances that are expiring and they're going to let them expire. Do you have any idea what those balances are? Through you, Mr. Moderator, sorry.
Representative Preet.
To you, Mr. Moderator, no, I do not, Chris. Okay. I can get that information if you want.
I was just curious, because I mean, I think ideally that's kind of what we were hoping the ordinance would do is, let these funds go back and be repurposed into something new, whereas in some of these instances, and as in the previous instance, it's just extending the life of some line item for a couple more years. So.
Yeah, well, as far as, and through you, Mr. Moderator, as far as the security upgrades to the high school and the Indian Neck School, I mean, I think we're all pretty confident or acute to the security issues that we don't want to stop them. The architectural study at the Branford High School, it's my understanding from the board that started and they ran into some wetlands issues, so they stopped the project. As far as the code compliance, I think that's just something that comes through us pretty much every year. I would mention though, this is the first year that we're actually acting on this ordinance. So, there are still a lot of projects out there to the point that, show dates of 15 and 14 and 13. I think as we sweep these accounts over the next year or two, we're not going to see those projects anymore. We shouldn't see anything with a year, less than probably 2020 or 2021. I mean, all this, the purpose of the ordinance was to get those off the books. And I think as we move through, we're going to see all those old projects go away.
Thank you, Representative Preet. I agree. I think the thing is if it's just getting redated of the same project name, then it's not actually doing that.
I
So,
agree.
thank you.
Any further discussion from members of the RTM? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Abstentions? The item carries. And hopefully they'll take my recommendation that through my alma mater, Sergeant Manufacturing Asa Abloy, they'll do the doors.
You get it,
Moving on to item number 11 that everybody's waiting for. To consider and if appropriate, approve a transfer request from the First Selectman for consulting services related to athletic field improvements as follows. From fund balance transfer, $400,000, to consulting services field study, $400,000. Resolved that the RTM approves an increase in the ARPA fund budget from $2,327,000 to $2,727,000. This appropriation will be for consulting services related to the Walsh Intermediate School athletic field improvements and the development of a strategic plan for athletic facilities townwide. This will be funded through an appropriation from the ARPA fund balance. Representative Healy.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Yes, Ways and Means met and heard this on December 7th. I think it's fairly common knowledge for all of us, especially those with kids, knowing the shape of the fielding in our area, and we're looking to upgrade that. So this $400,000 is for a consulting firm. We had 3 requests for proposals, and this is the firm that we decided to go with. There's basically 2 main projects that are going with this. Again, this is an evaluation of our entire town and the town's needs, both current as well as future. We've got a lot of changes from not just tennis, but into pickleball. We have, thankfully, a lot more younger youth out there and becoming more athletic than just starting at, say, the age of 9. With it again being within 2 projects, 170,000 of it is basically looking at most of the town. But the bulk of it, 180,000, is looking specifically at the Walsh Intermediate School and what can be done there. Again, going to be assessing future needs as well as current ones. It also made a good point that we don't want to hear later down the road that, oh, we could use such and such, and then have to look into buying a piece of property and finding out how much is it going to cost for us to build that up when we have plenty of property here in town that can be utilized properly and when it's fixed. So in hearing the presentation, it passed through committee 5-0, and I'd like to see it passed here before the full RTM, and I put that in the form of a motion. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Motion on the floor to approve this transfer. Any discussion from members of the RTM? Representative Ingraham?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, and I agree, standing up's better. I realize what I got. I'm happy to support this item. Been in the coaching world as a coach and parent here in Branford for, been involved over 35 years. This discussion's been going on for about 25 of those. So I'm happy to see it on a burner. I don't even think it's a back burner. I think the front right hand, right? The one everybody uses. That's, so I'm very excited to support it, and we'll be watching it all the way through.
Okay. Representative Preet.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'm fully supporting this. I'm 100% behind it. I just wanted to remind this body that last year at budget time, the Board of Ed came before us with an over $6 million ask for just the Walsh Intermediate School. And it was a pretty sloppy proposal. They were renovating the football field with no lights. They were putting a Little League field in where the middle school baseball team needs a senior 90 feet, not 60. I don't believe there was anything in there for girls softball. So I think it's a good idea to get this out of the Board of Education's hands, give it to the town, and do a town-wide study. You know, what's needed for the schools, but what's also needed for the towns. So I fully support this.
Representative Greenberg would like to speak to this, and then Representative Healy. Representative Greenberg?
Go ahead and unmute yourself, please.
I know I'm on Zoom, but anyways, I just wanted to fully support this. So I just want to go on record that I am 100% for this, and I hope that everyone feels the same way, and we all vote in accordance with this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Representative Healy?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Moderator. I just wanted to add that the consulting firm for that Walsh project is going to be with us from not only the concept, but be with us all the way through the construction aspect of things as well. So they're going to be able to guide us in continuation. They're not just going to say, okay, hey, go ahead, build a field, see you later, take the money and run. They will be with us through all of that. Thank you.
Representative Amori?
I really support the idea of a townwide assessment. I have a couple of questions. I think you answered, though. I was not sure whether it was going to include all of the Board of Ed facilities as well as just the town-owned ones, so you answered that. I'm mostly concerned about the contract, not about the intent of it. What is the time frame? It wasn't clear how long this thing was going to go on, number one, and there was no language in the contract, as far as I understand it, that puts a cap on the on costs and cost overruns. So I'm just wondering what you understand about that.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Through you. After we approve the money tonight, if that goes through, hopefully, then it actually will be able to hire the firm. As far as capping of costs, there is a little bit more expenditure money set aside for them that is set out in that contract for how much per hour for who is going to be used. But further details on that, I would like to submit to our first selectman, who's been in more contact with them on the contract for that.
Selectman Cosgrove, wish to speak to that?
As Representative Healy mentioned, this is really, you got to think of it as two tasks, two scopes of work. One being the assessment, and that'll be several months of a lot of community outreach, meetings, stakeholder outreach, website, doing a survey. So it'll take some time to compile all that. The Walsh, as that project, as Representative Healy mentioned, that's schematic, everything from conceptual, schematic, design documents through construction administration. So that they'll be with us for the length of that project, and they've done some preliminary work in terms of some wetland delineation, survey work at the site to kind of gather that, so they can, if we're successful and we get this approved, we can then engage them and they can start, which again, they have to go through, the permitting and the regulatory process. That'll take a few months, and try to, catch, hopefully, next construction season to do the project. So that'll be probably, you're probably looking at a year and a half total.
May I ask a follow-up? At the end of the survey period, what do you envision as the next step?
So, we'll have like I said, the analysis is not only a townwide assessment of the facilities we have, but also assessing the demand, where demographics are going, where the trends are going with sports. Each facility will be evaluated in terms of the level of play that they can sustain, in terms of the frequency, but also age, a different level of play. And from there, we can then truly develop a plan, a strategic plan to address those needs. And again, that broader survey or assessment is going to be, that's going to extend even beyond, the organized sports. It's also the recreational use, and then, and age groups. Right? That's going to capture everything.
Second and last follow-up. The strategic plan, I think, is a great idea. Would you engage another outside consultant, or use the same ones to help go through and develop a strategic plan?
So they'll be developing that in terms of, okay, here's the demand, here's your needs, here's what you have, here's a path to get there, what you need to do in terms of the improvements. And to your question in terms of the cost, yes, that each that's where the decision will come to us as a community, as far as what's feasible and doable to meet those needs.
Sure. My concern about the cost was the contract was silent about the cost of the contract. And
No, the contract
a
itself
lot of it is fixed.
is, yeah, there's
A lot
a
of it
fix.
is fixed fee, so there were, there were hourly things.
There was hourly beyond that, but if you read the proposal in terms of that they submitted, it is getting through, there's a certain number of meetings, certain number of hours that they
Okay.
plan for. But that, for the Walsh project, is all the way through construction.
Representative Ricchio?
No, I was gonna, just gonna suggest, first selectman,
You all set? Representative Anderson?
Can I see the microphone? Sure. I'd just like to go on record that I'd like the girls' sports to be, to have as much importance as the boys' sports as far as field needs. Girls' sports has a tendency to take a back seat towards the boys' sports fields. I'd like to hope that the girls and the boys are equally acknowledged on this field survey throughout the town.
Anyone else in the RTM wishes to speak to this? Representative Brooks?
And as I understand it from the contract, there will be public meetings so we can talk about our skate park when we get there.
Yeah. I got those
Anybody else?
three emails.
Representative Sells?
Just have one more thing. Thank you, Mr. Ryder. So I'm in favor of the assessment fields. I'm in favor of improving the conditions at Walsh. I did have just a couple of questions about the Walsh project specifically. In the language of the contract, it mentions an artificial turf field, but then I was told that that's not necessarily what's going to be used there. It could end up being a natural field. So I wanted clarification on that, which way that would go. And then my other question was clarification on what this field would be set up for, like for any kind of sports, so like football, soccer, lacrosse, that sort of thing. So those are two clarifications that I was just, if anybody could answer that. And then I just had a comment after that question.
All right, Selectman Cosgrove, or?
Yeah, I mean, when we do a field and at the Walsh, looking at there's an existing footprint. But certainly, we want to maximize the impact that it has on the sports group. So certainly, building an all-purpose field where it can be utilized for multiple different, whether it's lacrosse, football, or soccer, we want to build to that. I think, in terms of the amount of play that's going to be required, there's a lot of benefits, and we probably go towards an artificial turf for that all-purpose field. But again, we're looking at this engagement is really taking even a fresh look at everything that all the way through. So nothing is designed yet. That's what we're doing to get those answers. But we also want to make sure what we design is supported by the real need and demand that's out there.
Okay, thank you, Selectman Cosgrove. So then I'll just make my quick comment is, having a new field at Walsh, I think it's a really good opportunity to address what I see as a deficiency at Walsh, is the fact that they don't offer soccer teams for the middle school. And if we're going to have a new field, I think we should have some new teams for those students. So I'll just leave that as the first stakeholder engagement piece. Thank you.
Anyone else from the RTM? Representative Amori?
I just want to say I want to fully support Representative Anderson's statement. I think that's true, but I have something that has nothing to do with sports for the moment. I see all the parents, and I know that there's such a burgeoning interest in investment by parents and schools and everybody else in sports. But as a former theater nerd and the last person picked on every team, I'd like to see the town step up and make this kind of an assessment and investment for opportunities for arts and culture for our kids almost as much as we do for sports. Thank you.
Anyone else from the RTM? Anyone else from the public wishing to speak to this? Mr. Paluzzi?
He's getting money.
I can't believe you're not wanting to get up to speak, Mr.
Time's up.
Representative Amori,
Now your time's up.
this body, a couple of years ago, hired an arts, cultural, and special events coordinator for the town of Branford. And I know the sports people don't want me to hear this, but I get more enjoyment of going to watch our kids in town that don't have the opportunity to play sports. We had 80 kids the first year before COVID in Branford. We've put on multiple plays, not only at the high school, but also you mentioned the middle school. We worked very well with the Board of Ed to get the middle school, and we were the first ones to open up a play at the middle school. We did, actually, I was actually in one, if you didn't have a chance to go there, I was in spelling bee. But we did Chicago with 10 different communities around the town. But I just want to know, we are in the forefront, and Branford, this RTM, Board of Finance RTM was supportive of our arts, cultural, and special events, especially during the time of COVID. And now we're back in the game again, and we're getting ready also to celebrate our 5th anniversary next year, and do a special show in January already, and we're already set for next year to do a couple more shows. So for all ages of the community, not just, the children and all ages.
And that's on record, and that's what I want.
Yes.
All right, anybody from the public wishing to speak to this? Go ahead, come up and identify yourself.
My name is Barbara Leet. I live on Harbor Street. I just want to say that I guess most of you already know that we need to do something with these athletic fields. That they're really in dire need of improvement. And I have children that played in sports in the late 80s and early 90s. And at that time, when we traveled around the town, we were pretty comparable to all the other area towns. Fast forward now, and I have grandkids, and they are in grammar school through high school. And when we travel around now, I see the difference. We are way behind all of the other towns. Their facilities are much better than ours. And I think what really got me going was that my JV sophomore boy had to play on the side field at the high school where the geese are. And our goalie was rolling around in goose poop. And that's just unacceptable, absolutely unacceptable. And when the people from other towns would come to observe their kids playing on our field, they were appalled. And it was an embarrassment to me. I found myself apologizing to them because we're a great town. We have so many opportunities here, and we just need to do better. And one thing I'd like to see is that when you have these committees to assess everything, that you invite the coaches and people, outside of whatever the committee would be here, so that they can help address the needs going forward. Have a task force, really, that goes forward and, speaks to the needs of every sport here. And I agree also about the soccer. We don't have any soccer at middle school, so we have no feeders to go into the high school for our soccer teams. They have field hockey, they have volleyball, they have, I don't know what else they have there, but I know that they have several sports in the middle school, but they don't have the soccer boys or girls teams. So anyway, I'm glad to see there's going to be this money. I thank Jamie. I wrote a letter to quite a few people and sent pictures of some of my concerns, and Jamie and Alex responded to my call, so I'm glad to see this. Thank you very much.
Can we ask you for the clerk to record to spell your last name?
Oh, Leete.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else from the public wishing to speak? Come up and identify yourself.
Hi. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, moderator. Jennifer Orlando, Peddler's Drive. I have 2 children in the town. We're following our parents' footsteps and raising our children here as well. I have a 6-year-old little girl and a 10-year-old little boy. The little boy is very active, and I anticipate the girl being very active too. So for those that know me, I have a huge following because I'm very active on many boards and many things in town. We are very behind in this town. You need to know that families are leaving because of the sports. We have an $88.2 million school with dirt on the side, and we need to accelerate this now. And arts, all due respect, If we need letters, I will bring letters. I will bring people here every week to represent us if we have to. We need it in every sport, including soccer. Vets is beautiful. There's beautiful plans. There's beautiful things. I'm asking you to urge now on all of this, all these decisions, and accelerate this. We need this, or you will lose young families like myself and younger. That's all we talk about is where could we go? Could we go up this shoreline to Madison? Madison's fields are gorgeous. This field's gorgeous. I don't want to leave a town that I love, a community that I love with diversity, wonderful people, wonderful families because of sports, but I will on two things. If they're not getting what they need in their sports, they're not staying competitive, and their education does not come up. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Representative Creed.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Moderator.
It's not on.
It's on mute. There you go.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I just want to let the parents know that the issue of the sports in the middle school, there's no soccer, there's no lacrosse, whatever, that's a Board of Education issue. So that needs to go to the Board of Ed to say, you want this sport to be brought into the school system. They have to go and hire a coach. As far as the younger kids, I know the town has a phenomenal program for the younger kids and the feeder programs. But you're absolutely right. Once it gets to the middle school, I think that at this time, I think the middle school only has a baseball team, a cross-country team, and a girls softball team, and a wrestling team. So, all right. So as far as soccer, that needs to go to the board. They need to initiate that. Just a point of information. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Anyone else wishes to speak on this?
We don't have.
Representative Brooks?
Yeah. Am I correct? I just want to clarify, assuming this transfer goes through from the AARP fund, I mean, it's going to go through, so let's not pretend it was. Whatever it is. I don't like words. I don't like to use words.
How old are we?
That would give our total spending at 27.2 million, whatever. So we would have approximately $5.5 million left of that letters of funds.
Yes.
Is that correct?
We received 8.2.
Well, we received 8.2, 2.7, we'd be 5.5. All right, I just want to, I just, I like to do math in my head,
All right.
not words.
Any further discussion from members of the RTM? Hearing none, all those in favor of this?
Dennis, young lady.
Who's that?
Young lady,
Come on up.
injured reserve.
Get her name.
Tell us your name.
Annalise Ramos.
You got to speak up a little louder.
Annalise Ramos.
Annalise,
Okay, what would you like to say?
thank you.
When I go and play softball at the other fields, their fields are way nicer than ours. Their dugouts, they have like dugouts, and we don't have dugouts. We have benches that are right by the trees, and the trees can be a little distracting sometimes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, there's no further discussion on this item. Let's take the vote on it. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The item carries. Okay, moving on to item 12, discussion regarding ARPA fund allocations, and if appropriate, approve the following resolution. Resolved that the RTM acknowledges that the Branford community desire to use a portion of the American Rescue Plan allocation to assist nonprofit organizations within the town that have suffered negative impacts as a result of the pandemic. Therefore, the RTM hereby declares its intent to reserve $425,000 of the town's $8,257,021 allocation. Resolved that the RTM requests that the first selectman to research and provide the administrative distribution options to the board with regard to local nonprofit organizations negatively impacted by the pandemic. Representative Healy.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Excuse me. Yes, Ways and Means did meet on December 7th to hear this, and it's pretty self-explanatory. We're having $425,000 that's earmarked for the nonprofit organizations that they can then come before then the Selectman's office and request any aid or support after being hurt by the pandemic. It passed through our committee 5-0, and I like its passage here, and I put that in the form of a motion. Thank you.
Motion on the floor to approve this, Representative Brooks.
Through you, Mr. Moderator, to anybody that may or may not be able to answer this. Just, you know, this is great. We're all going to approve it, and we're happy to. But I have a question. Can it be increased if need be? Can that $425,000 be increased if we find that it's needed?
Representative Healy?
Yeah, the short answer is yes. I won't extend the night.
That's a short answer.
Okay, Representative Amore.
I have a quick question. I'm glad to see it going through the community foundation. I just wondered, did the town put any guidelines or strictures on how much individual grants could be made, what priorities they have, or is it just an open amount?
So, I mean, we actually haven't even officially engaged. We've had a conversation with the Branford Community Foundation. I do think that is an avenue, a mechanism we'll be bringing forward to the Board of Finance at their next meeting. I don't anticipate them meeting this month, probably meet in January, which kind of works in line to Guilford's kind of doing a similar process with the Guilford Foundation, and as you know, I'm sure you know, the executive director is the same. So we'll have a process that kind of isn't similar, and as well as the timing will work. So we haven't set those parameters, the guidelines. We will be doing that, working on that next month, and then bring that forward to the Board of Finance end of January.
Okay, so you haven't and don't anticipate putting limits on the size of grants that can be made?
I think that's going to have some further discussion. At this point, we haven't, but I think that is yet to be determined. I think there's also going to be, we're going to have to rely on some guidance, I think, from those who are in this field that have been awarded.
Sure. Yeah, I just would recommend not putting too many caps on those requests. Not that, you know, knowing that the foundation would be prudent in how they make grants, but sometimes, you know, when you do a lot of work to get $3,000 for your organization, and what you really need is $8,000, it's sometimes, that's all. From a background, a long history of running nonprofits, I just would hope that this would be a place where the money is there and can be accessed.
Yeah, and just to, because I did mention Guilford, but I want to clarify, I mean, the intent at this point is to really have if we choose to move forward with the foundation, they'll be the entity that does the solicitation, the review, they have the software, they'll manage it, they'll make a recommendation. The final approval for those awards will still go through the process of Board of Finance, RTM, and the check will go directly from the town to the entity.
Thank you very much.
Any further discussion from members of the RTM? Hearing none, all those in favor of this transfer signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The item carries. Moving on to item 13, to consider and appropriate approve the calendar for the RTM meetings for the year 2023. All meetings will begin at 8 p.m. and will be held in person at the fire headquarters, 45 North Main Street, second floor. Schedule 2023, January 11th, as per 2022 regular meeting schedule. February 8th, March 8th, April 12th, May 9th is the budget. That'll be a Tuesday. June 14th, September 13th, October 11th, November 14th is an organizational meeting. December 13th, January 10th, 2024. Do I hear a motion to approve the calendar?
Motion approved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the calendar signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The calendar is approved. Moving on to item 14, any other business that come before the RTM? At this point, I would like to, okay, call on Representative Vitable. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I just want to have a brief
Yeah,
moment of
sure.
silence to observe the 26 lives lost 10 years ago today during the Sandy Hook school shooting.
Thank you very much, Representative Verduran. Okay, any other business come before the RTM? Hearing none, I would like to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year's. I hope to see you all back next year. Do I entertain a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? Second. We are adjourned.
This program was brought to you in part through the support of the Town of Branford. Watch town meetings and other videos on demand at BranfordTV.org.